Good evening, coaches. My name is Matt Buller with the Glazier Football Clinics, and I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's webinar presented by Huddle Fundraising. We're honored tonight to have Coach Shadon Brown, the corners coach at Wofford College, with us to speak on the 3-4 defense, utilizing split and post coverage. Before we get started with the webinar, I want to go through a couple of quick messages. Coaches, there are two options for audio with this webinar. Option number one is your computer speakers. This option is the default, and most of you are probably already listening to us through your computer speakers. Option number two is the telephone. To listen by telephone, go to the webinar control panel, expand the audio portion of the control panel, click on the telephone radio button, then dial the number shown and enter the access code when prompted. Huddle is our presenting sponsor who makes these webinars possible. Huddle is the fastest growing video solution on the market. Coaches are using Huddle all over the country, including coaching staffs from the NFL to the high school ranks. Huddle has the capability for coaches to access online from anywhere. They can create accounts for every player and coach on a team. Huddle also has the fastest and easiest breakdown tools available, which include video analysis, highlights, recruiting, and film exchange. Huddle offers a 30-day trial with every account and offers a 10% first-year discount to Glazier season pass holders. To learn more, go to www.huddle.com or email them at sales@huddle.com. The staff season pass is only $349 and includes all of your coaches, including varsity, JV, middle school, and feeder programs as well. As I mentioned earlier, Glazier Clinic Online is also included in the season pass, and it has over 50 instructional videos, over 1,000 sets of clinic notes, and over 200 archived webinars just like this one. If you're not a Glazier Clinic season pass holder and you're interested in trying out Glazier Clinic Online, email Aaron Coughlin at ACOUGHLIN@glazierfootballclinics.com. Once again, that's Aaron Coughlin at glazierfootballclinics.com. Email Aaron your name, school, and state, and he'll set you up with a 3-day free trial. Also included in the season pass are discounts from some of the top football vendors. Some of the vendors offering great discounts on products and services are Huddle, Sport Decals, and Rogers Athletic. You can find the complete list at www.glazierclinics.com. Glazier Clinics is pleased to announce that Rogers Athletic is hosting an event free to Glazier Clinics season pass holders. Content will focus on sharpening football technique and building football strength. Mark your calendar for the Rogers Football Strength and Technique Clinic on May 4th at the Rogers headquarters in Clare, Michigan. Don't miss your opportunity to learn from expert coaches how to transform your team with winning football strength, speed training, and football technique coaching. Registration information is coming soon. Contact info@rogersathletic.com for questions. Concussions are a scary reality in sports today. The average high school football player takes over 650 hits to the head every single season. The average lineman takes over 1,000 hits. All of those subconcussive blows add up. Guardian caps absorb up to 33% of the impact in every hit. We know that you need all your players in the game to have a winning season. An old adage says you can never be fully protected, just better protected. Over 8,000 Guardians were on the field in 2012 with coach endorsements from across the country. Visit GuardianCaps.com for new lower team pricing for the 2013 season. Since 1968, football coaches have been training on Rogers equipment to help teach player fundamentals while protecting their athletes by limiting the amount of live contact and giving them the confidence to practice with game day aggressiveness. Rogers understands that champions are made long before the games begin. By partnering with football coaches, Rogers has developed a revolutionary line of strength training equipment called the Pendulum Rack. For off-season training, it builds football strength. No wonder most serious football players and trainers use Pendulum with Rogers Athletic. For more information, visit www.rogersathletic.com or call 800-457-5337. Coach's Choice is the place to go if you're looking for the best instructional books and DVDs. They have a full library of instructional material from many different categories. To access these videos, visit their website at www.coacheschoice.com. For the very best offense, defense, and special teams coaching systems out there, go to the free content link, www.championshipsystems.com/free preview. This is the proud home of the Nolma Zone Spread Offense System, Bruce Cobley Wing T Hybrid System, Bill Clark 3-4 Total Defense Program, Pat Fox Pressure 8 and Front G Defense, and so much more. For our outstanding March pricing special, call Jeff at 3284. Okay, Coach Brown, I'm going to go ahead and give control over to you. Please click on the Show My Screen button when that appears. And Coach, while you're going to go ahead and get set up there real quick before you get started, I want to go through some brief instructions with everyone. Keep in mind there are a lot of coaches on tonight, so be sure to save questions for the end of the webinar. Coach will stay at the end of the session, and we'll open up the floor for questions at that time. If you have a question that comes up and you don't want to forget it, you can submit your question in the questions text box, and I'll make sure that I address it at the end of the presentation. Also, you can hide the webinar control panel by pressing on the button on the left side of your control panel that has a white arrow pointing to the right with an orange background. That'll minimize the box and allow you to see the entire presentation. Now I'd like to hand it over to our speaker for today, Coach Brown. Again, Coach, we're honored to have you with us today, and we look forward to your presentation.
How you all doing out there tonight? Coach Shadon Brown, the cornerbacks coach at Wofford College, also on the special team coordinator. Hope you guys can hear me. Had a little buzz in the line there. I'm going to talk to you today about our 3-4 defense that we run here at Wofford. We utilize a split and a post coverage concept to our structure of our defense, and that's what we're try to do in each of our fronts is try to coordinate it with a split or a post, and that's basically what we try to hang our hat on. As we go through this presentation, please write down questions, and I hope to get everybody's questions answered toward the end of the presentation. Don't leave any stone unturned as you sit through this. So if you have something, make sure you write it down. I know all of you are like me. Your wives and girlfriends are at home saying it's not football season, but champions are made in the off season, and it doesn't stop with weightlifting and conditioning and practice, spring practice. You got to get a little extra knowledge to get the cutting edge on your opponents, and hopefully I give you something tonight that will allow you to be a better football coach and allow your players to be better and have a great experience playing football. As we start, I'll give a little background on us and some of the things we've done this past year. Had a really good season in 2012 from a defensive standpoint. We were ranked number 9 in the country in FCS football, formerly 1AA in total defense. We're also ranked number 1 in total defense in the Southern Conference. Gave up 306 yards per game to be number 1 in the conference and number 9 in the country. And that includes the likes of the Georgia Southerns, Appalachian States, Furman, Samford, Chattanooga, some really good football teams that we play against in our conference. We were the number 1 scoring defense in our conference at 16.6 points a game, the number 1 rush defense at 105 yards a game, and the number 1 red zone defense in the Southern Conference, number 1 in turnovers gained at 23, number 2 in pass defense, and number 2 in sacks in 2012. So we had a great statistical year as a football team. We finished 9-4 and made it to the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs and was beaten out by North Dakota State, who went on to win the second national championship in as many years. So had a great year, had a great nucleus of guys, and it's mainly because of our structure of what we do, and we give our kids a chance to make plays. Why we run the 3-4 defense. A lot of people ask this. The number one thing about our defense is we feel like at a school like Wofford is a very high academic institution. Our admission standard is a 3.0 and a 21 ACT or 1,000 SAT 2-part. So it's very difficult for us to go out and recruit the biggest, fastest, strongest, best football players in America at the FCS level. So there's times that we have to take a young man that may be a little bit smaller in stature on the defensive front that a bigger school may not want, meaning a 5'10" nose man may not be the guy that another program wants, but that's the guy that we can take that's a good football player. He may just be a little undersized. We may take an outside linebacker that's a 6'1", 190-pound kid that can really run and is athletic that a bigger school will not take. We'll recruit that kid as a safety and move him back to the back end. We'll also take bigger safeties in high school that maybe not have been hippie enough for another school, and we'll recruit that kid as an outside linebacker because our outside linebackers are hippie, more athletic type of guys. So we run the 3-4 because it helps us in recruiting. The number one position that's the most difficult to get is defensive lineman. Everybody wants a 6'4", 240-pound guy that can run and bend and lean. We want those as well, and I'm sure you do as a high school coach. But there's more of the 6 foot to 5'10", 190 to 200-pound kids walking around your halls at your high schools. So those are the guys that we have to go pull from. So the odd front with the 4 linebacker system allows us to recruit a different type of player, gives us another athlete added to the field. It allows us to get into multiple fronts. We can get into an over or an under front. It allows us to get into a base 3 down and line up in 2 4s and a 0 technique nose. Allows us to shade our fronts when we want. So we can be 3-4. We can be a 4-3 look and be multiple with the same personnel on the field. So we feel like that gives us an advantage because we don't have to sub-package at all with our defense. A lot of defenses are sub-packaged in essence that they bring another DB onto the field on a passing situation. We feel like that our outside linebacker is that extra defensive back that we've already have in our scheme, in our structure of our defense that's already on the field at all times. So we're not a sub-package defense. We feel like we have less adjustments. We can bump linebackers to the strength with the most stand-up receivers to adjust. We feel like we can walk a linebacker up on the line, move him off, kick him out to adjust to the formations that we see, and we don't have to do anything to our front. So we feel like we have less adjustments, which allows our kids to play fast. The number one thing that I hope that you're doing if you're an odd front coach is disguise. If you don't disguise your defense, there's no need to be a 3-4 or a 3-5 football team. You need to be a 4-3 coach if you do not use the disguise. That's why we line up, head up with our defensive ends and 4 techniques, and our nose is a 0 technique, and our outside linebackers never show who's coming in the rush or who's dropping in the defensive call. We want it all to be on disguise based upon the quarterback's cadence, and that allows us to cause some havoc with protections as well as coverage because the quarterbacks and the offensive linemen do not know where we're coming from. As I alluded to earlier, with the 3-4 defense, you get speed on the field. We get an extra speed guy on the field that 4-down teams may not have. 4-down teams usually are going to have bigger, bulkier linebackers at all 3 spots, and we're going to have our inside backers or be our bigger, bulkier guys. Our outside guys are more like safety type of guys. So we feel like we have 4 safety-type players on the field, which gives us better speed and athleticism across the board. Our pass rush, we feel like, is much better when we're rushing a 6'3", 210-pound outside backer versus a big tackle. We feel like that we're going to win those battles. We feel like we don't ever want to rush down the heart of defensive or offensive linemen, but we have the guys that can get on the edge and bend and lean out of our outside linebackers, which in essence is nothing but a defensive end in a 4-3 scheme. But our guy's a little bit different. He's coming from a stand-up position, a 2-point position as a rush guy. as compared to a 4-3 being with a hand-down position. And then the coverage aspect. We feel like in the 3-4 defense, we can utilize our outside linebackers more in the coverage to hold seams, to not allow us to be beaten down the middle of our defense. We feel like that because we have that extra speed guy out of the outside linebacker, that we can run with wheel routes and things of number 2 receivers running out and up. We have the personnel to be able to run with those wheel routes and feel comfortable putting those guys in those man type of situations. So that's the reason why we run the 3-4 defense here. It's been very successful here, and we'll get more into it as we go. Having a little difficulty here. All right. Why zone coverage? We are a zone coverage football team. We do not play a lot of man concepts. I think we had about 10 snaps a man the entire season. We are a zone coverage football team. A lot of people would say why. We feel like our strengths of zone coverage is DBs can see the ball thrown. We feel like if you see the ball thrown, you have a better chance to break on the football, which gives you a chance to create more pass breakups and inevitably create more interceptions and turnovers. We feel like if we can create 3+ turnovers a game, we will win every football game. A quick stat that I looked up for this clinic: at Wofford College since 2002, that's been roughly 10 years, when Wofford College held the offense to under 100 yards rushing and caused 3 or more turnovers, they are 98% winning percentage. 98% winning percentage when we hold them under 100 yards and force 3 or more turnovers. So DBs get to see the ball thrown, which is inevitably going to give us a better chance to cause turnovers. With zone coverage, you can use your DBs, your safeties, to fit the box for the run. We utilize our safeties to fit the box in the run, in post, and split coverage. We feel like you can defend deep throws better in zone coverage. You have guys deep over the top. You push windows deeper with your outside linebackers, and you give your secondary guys, your safeties and corners, a chance to make deep plays down the field. We play with a no-cover zone. No-cover zone in our defense is 5 yards or less from the line of scrimmage and 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That 10-yard box is what we call our no-cover zone. We will never cover a receiver in that area. We will allow you to throw short throws underneath for an entire game, but we feel like if you don't throw the ball deep over our heads, we have a chance to win. If you've ever seen our defenses play, that's what we do. There's times when we give up a lot of passing yardage, but we don't give up points. The name of the game, defensive coaches, is do not give up points. Our defense playing zone coverage allows marginal athletes to be playmakers. There's times when you do not have the corners to play man-to-man on quality receivers. Playing zone, playing off of receivers allows those guys to be playmakers. It allows them to see the ball thrown. It allows them to make plays while not having to chase receivers down the field that they are probably more times than not unable to do. So we feel like that is our strength of playing zone coverage. Now, we all know that there are weaknesses to playing zone coverage. The weakness of playing zone coverage, as I alluded to in the no-cover zone, the flats are always open in our defense. If you throw the ball to the strong flat in post or split coverage, it is probably going to be a completion. We hope to tackle it for a 5-yard gain or less with no yards after the catch. But that is the weakness of playing zone coverage. You cannot take away the no-cover zone throws. Third down and medium, that's the 3rd and 4 to 7 yardage. That is a very tough area for you to cover when your corners and your safety are playing 7 or more yards off of the receiver. It's very difficult to stop the medium downs. Screen and draw. The delay game is very difficult to stop when you're playing zone coverage because you're not snugging up receivers. You also will get hurt on 3rd down with the tailback lead draws out of the eye, and the nuance of the new spread option offenses is the quarterback lead draw. That has become a nuisance to our defense as well. And then putting 2 wide receivers in one zone. That's something that's started to become more prevalent, getting vertical routes and putting a trail guy in the same zone is very difficult to handle while playing zone coverage. Our philosophy with that is stay on top, allow them to throw the guy that's low and underneath, and we'll get it tackled and live to play another snap. That's our goal. Now, the first thing we'll get into is cover 3, and that is our post coverage. If I had a choice to play any coverage at any time, it would be cover 3. It's my most favorite coverage to play. When we run our cover 3 defense, we're going to be a 4-under, 3-deep zone with sky force to the reduction call. The reduction call is nothing but the strength to where our front will reduce. We'll always roll down the safety to that side. Sky force simply means that the safety is the primary in-run force guy to that side. The corners are play pass outside third defenders versus the run. They are secondary force players. The strong safety versus the pass is what we call a skiff. He is a seam curl flat player. Primary responsibility is to hold the seam of number 2, expand through the curl, and play top down on a flat route. Versus the run, the strong safety will be a sky support. That means he is the in-run force player to any perimeter run through the field. The free safety versus pass is a play pass middle third player, and versus run, our free safety will play the alley both ways. The next few clips we'll go through some alignments, and I'll talk through our teaching progression as we go through. Our teaching progression is pretty simple. We try to start everything with the ASKER principle. We communicate ASKER. ASKER simply means we want our kids to know first and foremost where to align. That means the leverage that they will align with, inside or outside, and the depth, the vertical distance. Their stance, what stance will they align in? Their key, what is their read key? What will take them to their responsibility, which R is the last one, which is the responsibility. That's how we want our kids, when the call is made, they want to think about alignment, stance, key, responsibility. And we communicate that as ASKER. We want every one of our kids to know that. The next thing that we will go through is our progression of teaching. We always start out with 3-step for the secondary. 3-step to us, which is quick game under center, is 3 steps, and then the ball comes out. In the shotgun, the quarterback is going to catch, load, and throw. The second progression is 5-step. The third progression is play action pass, sprint out pass, boot, run to, and run away. That's our teaching progression in every coverage that we have. Cover 3 versus pro. When we see a pro formation, the first thing that we want our guys to be aware is think play action pass and DBP, which is drop back pass, versus 21 personnel. And I've got numbered there, as you can see, how we number receivers. So the outside receiver to the field, the Z is number 1, the Y, which is a tight, number 2, and then the back, which back comes out to either side, would be 2 and 3 respectively, and then the X receiver at the top of the screen is number 1. We'll start with the wing guys, which are the corners, and then we'll work to the heart of the defense, which are the safeties inside. The corners will line up in a 1-by-8, and we will play a divider rule. I stole this concept from Nick Saban. If any of you guys ever read on any of his stuff, had opportunity to go down to a clinic down there a few years ago and heard him talk about the divider rule. And basically all we're doing is trying to find our leverage based upon where our help is. Post coverage, you got a free safety in the middle of the field. That's where your help is. Okay? Our divider rule is 1 yard inside the top of the numbers. So if you're looking at the picture here, our divider is 1 yard inside of the top of the numbers on both sides. In college football, from the boundary to the top of the numbers is 9 yards. We want to go 1 yard inside of that, so we say 10 yards on both sides. All we want to do as a corner, safety corner, is defend the last 11.1 yards of the field. Okay? We want to take those 10 yards on each side away from the offense. We want to make them play basically inside numbers to numbers. Okay? We feel like that gives us the best chance to defend the entire field. Anytime number 1 is inside of the divider, we will line up 1-by-8 orc. Orc is a term I use, just O-R-K. That simply means outside. Okay? Anytime the number 1 receiver is lined up outside of the divider, in essence here, we would be ink, 1-by-8 ink. If he's on the divider in cover 3, right on it, we always err on the side of an inside leverage in cover 3. Our strong safety will line up off of a tight number 2, 3 yards wide and 6 yards deep. So he's 3-by-6 orc off a tight number 2. Then our free safety will line up strong A-gap at 12 yards in cover 3. Our corners will be quarterback 2-to-1 read. Quarterback 2-to-1 read. Our strong safeties read the in-man triangle. He's reading through the in-man, through the tackle guard, to the near back. That is his read progression. The free safety is reading guard, center, guard, triangle for his run-pass key. So he is looking right through the gap at the guard. He will tell him run pass. As he sees the guard, if it's low hat, he takes his eyes to the center and then to the backside guard. He goes through all 3 before he comes downhill in the alley. We want to make sure that he is right because he is the last line of defense in the middle of the field. For the three-step game, going through the passing concept here, we tell the strong safety and corner you are responsible for the slant of one. Any quick game to one, the strong safety and field corner are responsible for that. Quick game to number two, the inside linebacker nearest number two and the free safety are responsible for a quick game of two. The outside linebacker away from the reduction side, which the reduction side in this picture is to the left, so we're reducing the front here. We're reducing the front here. So our outside linebacker up top is responsible for quick game out of the number one receiver along with the corner. So that's how we defend the three-step passing game. Getting to five-step, corners are reading quarterback 2-1. If you have no number two to your side in this picture, the boundary corner does not have a number two to his side. He would read quarterback to the number one receiver. Okay? Once it clears the three-step, we take our eyes to two. We're trying to find out what two is doing. If two works out or in, the corner will play all of number one. All of number one. Maintaining outside and on top leverage. Outside and on top. Strong safety is reading the end-man triangle. Tight end releases out. He's now playing the curl of one. He's going to expand through the curl, staying top down on any flat route. He is not going to run and snug up the tight end into the flat. He's going to hold the curl. Let the ball bring him up in the no-cover zone to the flat. That's a term we use to defend the no-cover zone. Allow the ball to bring you up. We're a zone defense. We're a spot drop football team with our linebackers, so we always want the ball to bring us up in the no-cover zone. To the boundary, the outside linebacker to the boundary is playing what we call a cut technique. Ball snap, he is allowing it to clear the draw threat, and then he's opening and cutting the face of the number one receiver. The number one receiver clears his hip. He's working to the bottom of the numbers, putting his butt on the boundary and working for width and depth. That is the cut technique out of the 9 technique to the boundary. The free safety is what we call an indicator read. We're reading the indicator. That means we're reading the quarterback's front shoulder the whole way. He will stay in a pedal until the front hand comes off the football that takes him to where he needs to go. It's a free safety. Here we're getting into a twins formation. This changes us a little bit. As we get into a twins formation, cover 3 versus twins is a very tough formation to defend the perimeter run. If it's any type of option game that we're seeing to the field, zone option or anything to the field, you're in a tough situation there because you're down a guy. But versus a conventional offense, this normal twins, we'll play some cover 3. The corners are no different than we talked about in the previous clip. 1x8 divider rule. They're reading quarterback 2-1. Quarterback 2-1. In this clip, we've got a number 2 receiver that is in the backfield. All right. Anytime that guy is not outside, clearly outside the tackle, we call him a back because he can come back across the formation and be a blocker on split zone or power type of run game. So we communicate that he is a back. The strong safety now is going to move back and play at 10 yards with a speed 2 in the game. If it's a tight 2, he's 3x6 with a speed 2. That's a stand-up wide receiver type guy. He's going to be 1x10 ink on number 2. That means he is inside leverage. Okay? We talked about it earlier when we started. We're a disguise football team. Our lead cause is going to be a split coverage. So pre-snap, we want to make every coverage that we have look like a split coverage. As you look at the picture here, this looks like a split coverage. It looks like some form of quarters coverage, but we're actually playing post. You don't get a bead on our reduction from the front. The linebackers are playing, both are off pre-snap. They're both in rush demeanor. You do not know which guys are coming. That's where our disguise comes from. We want to make it look like cover 6. Cover 6 is our base coverage. And we'll get into that as we go. That's half, cloud, and quarters to the field. That's what this looks like. And that's a good disguise, but we're actually playing our cover 3. Our strong safety that I was alluding to is 1x10 ink number 2, and he's playing what we call the skiff technique. He is first thing that he's thinking is seam, curl, flat. Seam, curl, flat. And what we want to do is anytime that we get a number 2 receiver on the hash, we want to make a seam alert call out of the strong safety. Seam alert alerts the field corner that he has a number 2 on the hash, and he can get a vertical route out of number 2. In college football, if you can study anybody's film, if the number 2 receiver is on the hash to the field, there's about an 85 to 90% chance that he is running a vertical route. If number 2's inside the hash, there's about a 90% chance he's running under, or what I call a slash release inside. If he's outside that hash, a yard or more, then he's probably running some type of outside cut or a wheel concept. That's what we see. So that's how we teach our guys what's coming. So in this picture, 2's on the hash, this safety is going to make a seam alert call. Seam alert. As the ball is snapped, the strong safety is reading through the end man for high hat, and then once he sees pass out of that tackle, he is taking his eyes immediately to number 2. Immediately. Number 2's pushing vertical. He is going to reroute. He wants to reroute number 2. Reroute number 2 in the seam. He does not want to chase the contact. All right? He wants to hold that window to push this throw deeper down the field. He can move off that hash. Our rule is move off the hash a yard inside or a yard outside, no more, to collision and reroute a number 2 receiver. If the receiver goes inside, that's okay. He's pushing the receiver right to the post, okay, and right to the inside linebacker. That's a 3-2 drop inside. If he works outside, that's even better. He's pushing him right to a corner that is playing a midpoint technique. As we talk about the corner now, the corner is reading quarterback 2 to 1. So the quarterback clears 3-step. What's 2 doing? 2's vertical, think midpoint. Immediately think midpoint. As he midpoints, he wants to get his eyes back on the quarterback. The quarterback will tell him what to do next. We'll get into that more. And that's with both corners on both sides, field and boundary. Nothing changes for those guys. They're quarterback 2 to 1 read in cover 3. Well, we're different from most football teams is we're going to play with our free safety leaning weak to the weak hash. He's going to start out pre-snap right on the hash at the snap of the football. He's going to work with twins to the field, two backs in the backfield. He's going to lean to the strong A-gap, 14 yards deep, but stay to the weak hash. Do not work to the middle of the field. If there's a vertical concept out of number 2, he will not open to it. He will continue to lean weak and stay straight back on that hash in a pedal, reading the indicator. What we tell our kids the indicator is the quarterback's front shoulder. He will tell you where he's going with the football. Secondary coaches, do not give the quarterbacks more credit than they deserve. Once the quarterback back foot hits the ground and his front shoulder is set, he's going to come back a quarter turn only. He's not going to go from looking to the right or to our left, in this picture, and come all the way back and look down here to the boundary. Not going to do that. If he does that and throws the football, head coaches and coordinators, you need to fire your defensive line coach because he's not doing a good job. I use a term here that you can't cover them all day. You can only cover them for about 3 to 4 seconds, and the ball's got to come out right now, or we got to fire the D-line coach because he's not doing a good job. Our guy does a great job because we're second in the conference in sacks and top 10 in the country. So we're getting pressure, but make sure you're getting pressure because you can't cover them all day. So our corners are playing quarterback 2-to-1. Our free safety's reading his guard, center guard triangle. It doesn't change for his read key. As he sees his pass out of one of those guys immediately, he's thinking, get my eyes on the indicator and get into a pedal. Lean weak. Lean weak. The quarterback will take him to where he needs to go next. As the safety, we're going back to the strong safety. This is a critical position in cover 3 for us. He's going to reroute 2 in the seam as number 2 clears his hip. Number 2 clears the safety's hip. He is going to zone turn inside, open with his butt to the boundary, eyes inside, getting his eyes on the quarterback. Okay? What he's doing is he's holding off the seam, trying to push the window deep. As he pushes the window deeper, the ball has to be thrown at about 18 to 22 yards down the middle of the field on the hash to be completed to number 2 by that time, because our safety's starting at 14. As he starts to easy out through the quick game, he's going to be at about 16 to 17 yards by the time the quarterback sets his feet to throw to number 2. That means we're already on top of that route, and he can break at this angle, top down, on any seam throw to number 2. That's why we lean our safety weak. It also does not allow the quarterback to look our safety off. As most quarterback coaches teach their cue, anytime you have post coverage, if you're throwing vertical in the seam, pump the safety one direction, throw the other. You can't do that to Wofford because we don't go for any pumps, and we're always leaning weak. We're never staying in the middle of the field. That allows us not to get screwed up by the quarterback with ball fakes. I know that's a big problem for most people, so that's why we do what we do. The strong safety's technique, going back to the strong safety, once 2 clears his hip, if the ball's not thrown to number 2, he is now trying to find number 3. Find number 3. If 3 pushes right now on the snap, he's going to hold the seam, and then as 3 clears the hash, he's going to start to expand through the curl. That's where the seam curl flat comes in. He's going to start to expand to the curl of 1, staying top down on the flat. Now if the ball's thrown to the curl, he's in the curl to play it to help the field corner. The ball's thrown to the flat. Now he's breaking top down on any swing routes or anything in the flat, and there should be a 2-man leverage tackle between the safety, outside leverage, and the inside linebacker, inside leverage. He's our 3-2 backer. As 3 pushes, our 3-2 backer will work from the hook to the curl. Our safety will work from the curl to the flat. We call that tied on a string. Those 2 guys should be tied on a string as they work with any 3 pushing. Now, the dreaded formation, 2x2, double twins is the dreaded formation in cover 3. Everybody's always nervous about 2x2 and what they're going to get, which is the number 1 formation for verticals. As you see it here, we want to think verticals. Anytime we get 2x2, cover 3 versus 2x2 double twins, we want to make sure we have a great disguise. We do not want to show cover 3 too soon. Here you can see our rush side and our drop side. But if you look at the picture, this looks like the rush side here and looks like the drop side up top. Both guys are in rush demeanor. We want to show rush demeanor every time. The boundary corner and the field corner, anytime they see a number 2 to their side with a normal split, to the boundary we call a normal split, apex the numbers, bottom of the numbers and the end man, we call that a normal split. We're thinking verticals. First thing we got to think about is the midpoint technique. Okay, midpoint. Free safety is going to lean weak. Nothing changes there. Reading guard, center guard, triangle. Our strong safety is playing his seam, curl, flat technique. Our corners are playing quarterback, 2-1. Nothing changes. So in this picture, they come out in this 2x2 formation here. The strong safety should make immediately a seam alert communication that tells everybody on the defense, I've got a number 2 that's on the hash to the field. Let's go. Here they come with verticals. The same thing will be made now out of the boundary corner with a normal split number 2 with 2 into the boundary. That means bottom of the numbers to end man on the line of scrimmage. This receiver's in an apex. He's going to make a seam alert to the boundary. As we get seam alert calls, we know we're in a verticals situation now. Ball snap, corners are reading quarterback 2-1. Once the ball clears 3-step, the corners are looking at 2. Vision points on 2. If 2 is vertical at all, I'm working to a midpoint. That it means I'm trying to get to the top of the numbers, all right, or apex hash numbers. That would be the midpoint between the number 1 and the number 2 receiver. Once we get to a midpoint with each corner, we're trying to find the indicator. Get your eyes on the quarterback. He'll tell you what to do next. We tell these guys 3 things. Make sure you write these down. If the indicator sets his feet down the middle of the field, midpoint the 2 vertical routes, because the quarterback is throwing it to number 2 to the field or number 2 in the seam. He is not throwing the football to number 1 on either side of the field. He's trying to look the free safety one way and come back to the other. If the quarterback sets his feet once it clears quick game and he's putting you in play, that means what we mean by putting you in play, he's looking at the corner here that I'm circling. We tell this corner, if he's putting you in play, don't midpoint, squeeze. Squeeze to number 1. Squeeze the number 1 receiver because we're all reading off the indicator now. So this corner would squeeze 1. Our free safety's already leaning to the weak side. Anytime he has a number 2, he's going to lean weak A gap. Weak A gap out of the free safety. And he's reading the indicator. Indicator's down here. The boundary corner will play 1. Free safety will lean to number 2. And the strong safety will zone turn underneath number 3. The field corner, we use a term, anytime the indicator is away from you, we want to overlap the away seam. So the indicator's over here. This seam that's there, this corner will overlap there. 2 in the seam, The safety will play it. Number one, the corner will squeeze to it. You see, we've got the three verticals that are in the quarterback's vision covered, and we'll let the widest number one guy run free. Because if the quarterback sets his feet into the boundary, he is not going to come all the way back to the field number one receiver. Remember, our reduction or our rush outside backer is coming right into the teeth of that. So if the quarterback can set his feet to the left, his left, and come all the way back to the right and throw it to number one, then we need to fire the defensive line and the outside linebackers coach because they're not coaching rush well enough. Moving on to a 3-by-1. Anytime we get a 3-by-1, in this picture we have a tight number 3, we have 4 to a side. Anytime we get 4 to a side with our linebackers, we're thinking push. We want to push to 4 to a side. That just means we want to bump the underneath zones over one guy. All right. Corners are no different. 1-by-8 divider rule. The strong safety now, number 2, is not on the hash, so he's going to give a under alert communication to the drop 9 technique to the boundary. That tells him that you could get an under coming to you. Verticals have been eliminated. All right. He's reading the end man triangle, so he's reading through that tight end. That'll tell him run pass. If he gets a number 3 out right now, he's thinking expand. Expand through the seam. Now the seam has cleared you because there's no seam to defend. He's working now curl, hold the curl, work top down to the flat with the ball bringing him up. Our 3-2 backer now is going to get his run pass read out of his guard. And now once he gets a high hat, he's got to find 3. If 3's working away, he's going to now push to the curl because he knows the strong safety is expanding to the flat. Our weak side inside backer will always work. He's a middle read player here with 4 to a side. He will always work to 4. So if 4 works away, he'll work and take over the strong hook. If 4 comes back to the weak side, he will now work straight back on the hash. Straight back on the hash because he now has 2 receivers into the boundary, and all we would have over there is a 9 technique on any type of quick game or throws to the back on a swing or a check down. We always want to have a chance to have a 2-man leverage tackle on any ball thrown in a no-cover zone, as we talked about earlier. Strong safety will change the alignment a little bit here. He's going to lean toward the strong A-gap whenever he has 3 to a side, and he's going to do the same thing. Guard, center guard, triangle, play the indicator. Indicator is quarterback's front shoulder. Wherever he sets, that's where he's going, especially with 3 to a side. He doesn't have a lot of time to waste. Cover 3 versus empty. The corners will still play their divider rules, 1-by-8. Reading quarterback 2 to 1. The strong safety now is at 10 yards inside of number 2. Inside of number 2. Our rush side is up top. Our drop side is to the boundary of our outside backers, and he's playing a cut technique. As I alluded to earlier, our inside backer strong is a 3 to 2. He's always going to bump on empty to 3 receivers. Always bump to 3. Our weak side inside backer is a 2-player to MRP. Middle read is what that is, middle read player. So he's going to play off of 2. If 2's out, he's middle read. If 2's under, middle read. 2's vertical. Help hold the vertical hook of number 2. Our strong safety is now eliminated a seam because 2 is not on the hash. He's thinking play is curl flat, 3 pickup rules with leverage on 3 in the flat and holding the curl off of number 1. Our free safety will deepen up. We'll let him get as deep as 18 yards deep, lined up in the strong A gap with an empty formation. He has a lot more ground to cover now that they put 5 receivers out, but we also feel like anytime it's empty, we want to think quick game to intermediate, because we feel like that our 4 guys rushing, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that we're going to get pressure against their 5, so they have to get the ball out quick from an offensive standpoint. So we're going to get him as deep as possible, and we talked about earlier, we're not going to give up deep throws down the field. Quick stat for you, we gave up 8 touchdown passes the entire season in 13 football games. That's including playing against the University of South Carolina, who I watched on film throw the ball over the University of Georgia's head 5 times in a ball game on ESPN this year. The longest touchdown pass given up this year for us was 23 yards. So we don't give up long throws over our head, and I told you when we started, that's what makes our defense good. So that's what we're doing in cover 3. That's all of our dividers, our alignments, our keys. I know that's quick, but hopefully you have questions that you're keeping wrote down that you can get answered if you have questions about the coverage. Cover 6 is our split coverage. Utilize a weak or boundary reduction. That means our front is slanting from the boundary to the field. Our quarters will be to the strength, and we'll play cover 2 to the reduction side. So we'll play a squat corner to the boundary and a half technique. The field corner will play our quarters toolbox rule. We'll get into that in a second. Versus run, he's a secondary force player. Our boundary corner versus the pass is a funnel 1 and locate 2. Versus the run, he'll be a primary force player to the boundary. Strong safety will play his quarters toolbox rule. Versus run, he's secondary force. Our free safety will be a play pass half technique. And then versus the run, he's a secondary force player. Quarters toolbox. We play a 2-read concept. A lot of people have heard of this as the old 2-read or blue coverage concept. Our field corner and strong safety are playing a 2-read concept with the number 2 and number 1 wide receiver. Our lock concept is the field corner and strong safety are playing lock concept with number 2 and number 1, the wide receivers. Basically, they're playing man on the 1 and 2 receivers on any outside cut or vertical route by 1 and 2. The 9 technique is playing hold the seam, and then his primary job is the curl. He is a curl player. Doesn't have to be responsible for the flat, because if we get any route by number 2 in the flat, the corner will play it. The third quarters concept that we'll use is a stress technique. Field corner strong safety are playing a midpoint technique versus a 3-by-1 only. The 9 technique now will play a buzz concept with a flat. So any flat route by 2 or 3, the 9 technique will buzz it to the flat. That means he'll take anything in the flat. The corner and the strong safety will lean to 3 and 2 respectively. Cover 6 versus a pro formation. Again, we're thinking play action pass. Anytime we have a tight number 2 or 9 technique to the Okie side, that means the side that's not in the reduction, a Okie side 9 technique will buzz on any number 2 to the flat when he's tight. The safety is playing a read technique. He's reading 2. That's his key. 2's vertical, safety plays him. 2's out, 9 takes him, safety buzzes. Robs. He's going to rob 1. We tell him rob 1 with a curl, dig, to post progression. So he's thinking curl, dig, zone turn inside on any post. That's what the robber technique of our strong safety is. Our corner is 1-by-7 playing a divider rule. Anytime we have a tight number 2 with a read buzz concept, he is playing a lock on number 1. He's quarterback to 1 read. He's playing all of number 1 out and up. Out and up. The field corner has number 1. To the boundary, we're lining up 1 by 5 with the corner. He is playing a cloud technique. His technique is funnel 1, locate 2, find the wide drag. Funnel 1, locate 2, find wide drag. Our free safety is 1 by 14 off the weak offensive tackle. His progression is he's reading quarterback action to the number 1 receiver. The number 1 receiver will tell him how wide he needs to weave in a pedal based upon the release and the funnel of the corner. The corner funnels inside. The free safety doesn't have to work for width now. He can work straight back and play off the indicator. If number 1 beats the corner outside, which can happen, he now needs to work with more width and depth because he has a longer space to cover. We tell that boundary corner, make the half technique's life easy by forcing number 1 inside to him and make him have an easier job because the throws now have to be inside the bottom of the numbers to the hash. It's a harder throw to get it to the boundary. Once the boundary corner funnels and number 1 clears his hip, he's going to put his butt to the boundary, what we call elevate. He's going to work for width and depth to the boundary to play underneath any type of comeback or any type of flag route concept out of the number 1 receiver. The 9 technique, going back to him, he's a buzz player on any 2 to the flat. So if the tight end's vertical and 3's in the flat, 3 becomes his new number 2. He's reading through that end man triangle, the tight end, tackle, guard to the near back. So if that near back comes out, he becomes his new number 2. He's going to work and keep leverage on him. Top down on the flat. That's the communication we use. Stay top down on any flat route by this, with the strong safety planted in cover 3 and the 9 technique in split coverage, cover 6. Cover 6 versus twins. Now anytime we get 2 stand-ups, 2 speed out here, we're playing a 2-read concept. Now the strong safety is going to be ink on number 2 at 12 yards. The corner's playing his normal 1 by 7 quarters alignment. They're playing quarterback 2-to-1 read. If 2 works out, this is what we do differently than everybody in America. The field corner plays all of 2 out. A lot of people teach the old if he comes out at 5 rule, if he comes out at 10 rule. Okay, those are normal breaking points, 5 and 10 yards for a number 2 receiver. Well, coaches, what if the receiver breaks out at 4 yards? What's he going to do? What if he breaks out at 7? What's he going to do? What if he breaks out at 11 yards or 13? You give the kid a lot of gray area when you give him those landmarks. Sometimes in high school football, the receiver doesn't run exactly where his coach told him to run. So we changed our coaching 2 years ago, and we said, corner, you will zone turn on all 2 read, and you will play all of 2 out. You'll play him out at 3, 5, 15, 18, 20 yards down the field. 2 works out, the corner's got it. The safety will play over the top of 1. Our 9 technique is going to play an apex alignment. He will apex number 2 and the end man on the line of scrimmage. That means he's going to play in between, in the middle. He gets a high hat out of the tackle. He's thinking hold the seam. And we teach our 9 technique to backpedal. A lot of people don't teach that, but we teach him to backpedal. He is not going to reroute. We do not reroute at Wofford with anybody other than the strong safety in cover 3 and the corners working a funnel technique. We do not reroute with linebackers underneath. We are a spot drop, push windows deeper football team. See the ball thrown. So the 9 is going to hold the seam of number 2 to help the safety back inside, which pushes the window deeper down the field, which doesn't allow the quick seam throws. To the boundary corner, we're always lined up 3 by 5 off a closed formation. The free safety will line up at 10 yards in the B gap now with a tight number 1 as a half technique, and they're playing a bracket on any tight end release. They're going to bracket the tight end. Their read key changes for the safety. Now we're reading the screws. There's 2 screws on his helmet. We're reading those screws. Remember, we're cloud support up top on any perimeter run to the boundary. The corner is the end run force guy. He's got to turn the ball back in for the play pass defender or alley defender, which becomes our half technique. He turns into an alley player once run happens. And we tell him, fit off of your boundary corner, make him right. So if the corner for some reason goes and takes on a lead block and gets logged, the safety will fit outside of it. If the corner does his job and forces it, our safety will fit back inside in the alley. So any 2-out concept here, whether it's 5 and out, vertical by 1, the corner will come off and play the out cut. The safety will exit with depth and play over top of 1. If we're getting a scissors concept, post by 1, flag by 2, the safety will play the inside cut of 1. The corner will play that outside cut of 2. We will pass off the scissors concept. Versus double twins, again, as it cover 3, we're thinking 4 verts. Think 4 verts. Number 2's on the hash, so the strong safety is going to give a seam alert. That alerts the 9 technique that you are a vertical hook player on number 2, that you got to hold that seam because you can get a vertical. Help me out is what the strong safety is basically telling him here. Field corner is 1 by 7, quarterback 2-to-1 read. Inside backer is playing 3-to-2. He's got a 3 to his side with the back. He's reading guard to number 3. Weak side, inside backer to the reduction side. We tell him you're a vertical hook on number 2, and you're reading guard to number 2. If number 2 is vertical at all, you're going to open to him. Once 2 clears your hip, you're going to flip back inside and race to the hash. Every number 2 receiver that runs vertical, always, once he clears the linebacker, he bends toward the hash. We're going to beat him to the point. We're going to work at 45. Once he clears my hip, bend back inside to the hash. Cloud corner will give a seam alert down here because he's got an apex number 2, bottom of the numbers, and the end man on the line, seam alert, which tells that linebacker you're going to get a vertical out of number 2 here. Half technique landmarks change a little with the wide number 2, 2 speed stand-up guys. He's going to now work to 2 by 14 off the hash. So 2 yards wide, and he's going to be at 14 yards deep. His read key is quarterback to the number 1 receiver. Q-to-1 for a half technique. A lot of people teach quarterback 2-to-1, but we tell him the vertical hook linebacker is going to do his job and protect you inside. You're going to work outside of number 2. Okay? So that's how we play our half technique. And then our boundary corner, he will funnel 1 and locate 2. Funnel technique, he wants to funnel 1 inside to the safety, funnel for 3 steps, eyes and head. Placement is on the backside pad of number 1 with vision point on number 2. The boundary corner will be responsible for any wheel routes out of number 2. The corner will run with it. He will run with any wheel routes out of number 2. Field corner and strong safety are playing their normal 2-read technique as we talked about in previous clips. 3 by 1, this is always a big one with post coverage. Who's handling 3 vertical? Anytime we get 3 stand-ups, we're going to play stress. Stress simply means field corner is going to play 2x10 ink on number 1. He's going to lean to any 2 vertical. His read is quarterback 2 to 1. If 2's vertical at all, the corner is going to go lean to him. We use the term lean. Don't go on a date with him. Be on top of him in his area. Strong safety is going to be 2x12 ink. It's inside of number 2. And his read is quarterback 3 to 2. If 3's vertical, he's going to lean to 3. We'll let the widest guy, which is number 1, run. Okay? Anytime we're playing stress, the 9 technique is playing a buzz. So if 2 works out, he's going to buzz the flat. Now that tells the corner, instead of playing 2 now, because you have no 2 vertical, you play all of 1. Same thing with the corner or the strong safety. If 3 works away right now, play all of 2. If 2 works under right now, squeeze to number 3. Our vertical hook linebacker is a 3 player to the Okie side. He's reading through guard to number 3. If 3's vertical, he's going to play underneath number 3 as a vertical hook to help the strong safety out underneath. Anytime we get a speed cross by a number 2 receiver, we're going to communicate under, under, under. And then our 2 linebacker, 2 middle read linebacker will work to hold that off. Once it clears the hash, he's going to let it go to the boundary corner, which is our flat player. Our boundary corner is going to be 1x5. He's still working a funnel 1, locate 2 technique. He wants to funnel 1 inside, put his butt to the boundary, sink with width and depth. He has no number 2 to his side. That comes in, as I talked about in an earlier clip, find the wide drag. Wide drag means anything coming from the strength down here to you, that becomes your wide drag. Anytime with 3 receivers to the field, our half technique will back up. You'll back up to about 15 yards, 1 yard off the hash. He's going quarterback to 1 read. Once he sees what 1's doing, he's going to get his eyes back on the quarterback. The quarterback is looking to the field. He'll give the safety some overlap help off the hash if he gets a 3 vertical. That means a strong safety. So we'll lean that free safety a little bit to the field based on the indicator. Indicator's down here to the boundary. Free safety will go ahead and open his hip and be ready to play a vertical of number 1 because he knows the strong safety now is leaning to the middle of the field and taking over the middle of the field, and the corner is going to be squeezing to that hash with number 2 and taking over that hash. So we're basically slinging our coverage to the quarterback's vision point, okay? As we do in all of our coverage, we want to be in a position to read the indicator so that we can break on the football. Against empty, number 3 is the stress point of the coverage. We'll play our stress technique. We'll always bump the linebacker to a 3 when there's no backs in the backfield, so he'll bump and be a 3-2 guy. Again, we're playing a half technique here, so all we're doing is playing our half technique rule. Vertical hook on 2. 2 clears the hip, race to the hash. Funnel 1, locate 2 with the corner. And then the half technique is a quarterback to 1 read. If 1's under, if he's out, he'll expand. 1's away, straight back in a pedal, read the indicator. And then our 9 technique to the field, who is our drop, our Okie outside backer, is a buzz technique. He is a buzz technique. That's how we will play our cover 6 versus empty. Nothing really changes on our techniques and what we're doing. We just know now that we've got to relate to a number 3 receiver quick because a lot of people give us empty and like to set 3 down right there in between the buzz linebacker and the inside linebacker to the field. So what we'll do is we'll bump to that to be able to relate to that number 3. And then the 9 technique is reading in-man triangle to number 2. Any number 2 out, he will buzz.
Hey, Coach, this is a quick 5-minute warning for you.
Okay. That's the end. I know I was pretty quick. That's the end. I hope you guys, if you've got questions, that I can go back and answer them. That was pretty the basic overview shell of our coverages and what we're trying to do and get across. Didn't get as much into the run fits and all that stuff with the run game. Wanted to focus more on the passing concepts and what we're doing there. But if you have questions that may be of concern to you from a standpoint of run fits, from a standpoint of bubble or anything of that nature, which is another thing that we deal with, we can get into that with your questions. I wanted to give you the overview and then give you what you needed as far as the questions that you have. So if you have questions, we'll go ahead and start getting them answered.
Great. Thanks, Coach Brown. That was great. In just a little bit, we're going to open up the floor here for questions. Coaches, you can submit your questions through the questions section of your webinar control panel. It operates just like instant messenger or chat. If you dialed in using a telephone, you can click the button that looks like a small hand on the vertical toolbar sticking out from your webinar control panel in order to ask a live question. Coach Brown, I'm going to go ahead and enter the question period here, so I'll read the questions to you and let you respond, and just go ahead and leave control with you for the moment. First question, Coach, how do you defend bubble out of the cover 6?
That's a good one. Okay. Anytime we've got twins, anytime we have twins, we're playing our 2-read concept. The corners are reading quarterback 2 to 1, and we tell them easy out through the 3-step. The corner is responsible for any 2, what we call 2 negative. Sorry. Any 2 negative. So if we get the number 2 receiver going negative, that means he's giving us a bubble. The corner will trigger, because that is basically 2 out for us. He will trigger, and the safety will be the play pass now on top of number 1. So if there's any type of fake bubble and go, the safety will work over the top. So what we'll get is we'll get outside leverage with the corner on number 2 and inside leverage for a 2-man leverage tackle with our 9 technique. What we teach our strong safety is if the number 1 receiver works and tries to clamp on, what we call clamp on number 1, or I'm sorry, the corner, number 1 clamps on the corner, we tell the corner, power through his inside pec vertical. The safety will now fit outside of you and make you right. That's basically to us like a crack on the primary force player, and the secondary force player in this picture would be the strong safety. He will fit outside and make him right. Hopefully that answers your question. It also applies to any 1 negative. So if we get slip screen out here, number 1 taking a step forward and back off, and with number 2 coming to kick, the corner's still going to trigger. The same way we keep any 1 or 2 negative, the corner becomes our primary force player, with the linebacker being inside, the corner outside, the safety the play pass.
Great, thanks. Coach, tell us what your primary threats are out of that cover 3.
Primary threats out of cover 3, the number 1 thing is for us is number 3, in cover 3, the verticals. That's our number 1 issue, just like everybody else. We want to make sure that we hold off the seam with that strong safety. And then I think the other thing is, the hardest thing is for our strong safety to leverage a number 3 that's into the flat. So in this picture here, if we got a number 3, we got vertical by 2 and a number 3 in the flat, our strong safety has to expand through the curl and keep leverage on that. The other concept that we'll get is if we get number 2 away from us with number 1 vertical, we'll get our strong safety wanting to squeeze back in too far, and now here comes an under from the boundary. That becomes his new number 3. He has to keep leverage on that in the flat. That's probably our most stressful deals that we get out of cover 3, is in working on our strong safety. And then the other thing is getting bubble to cover 3, and we play it exactly the same as we would with cover 6. Any 2 negative, the strong safety now, who's the primary force, will trigger. The corner is the play pass now. And the corner, once number 1 cracks the safety, he will come and be this crack replace player, and we tell him to fit tight off of the number 1 receiver to force the bubble, and now we'll have the strong safety inside the crack, the corner outside, and the bubble is now a dead play.
Great, thanks, Coach. How would you cover the funnel screen with cover 6?
The funnel screen, is that are you talking about the number 1 receiver coming back inside in a 3-by-1?
That's correct.
Okay. What we're going to do is anytime that the number 1 receiver is coming back inside in a 3-by-1, the 9 technique is going to work to get outside leverage on number 2. That's the guy. That's the point block. We want to get the 9 outside of number 2 because he's a buzz player, and the strong safety now will come and fit back inside in stress. He will fit back inside of the 9, and the corner now becomes the play pass. So in this picture, I'm trying to figure out how to erase all this. I could. All right, in this picture here with the 3-by-1, if we get a number 1 coming back inside with 2 working to block the 9 and 3 working to block the next guy in the alley, the 9 is going to work to play outside of 2's block. The strong safety now is going to come and be the secondary force player inside of 2, which is outside of 3, keeping his place out arm and leg free. We'll get the inside backer working inside out. The corner will be the play pass. And then our backside linebacker, we hope he becomes our tackler. All right? Because normally the 3 guys are going to turn and either try to block most dangerous, which is the linebacker or the safety. If the safety gets there, this inside backer is our tackler. But if he blocks him, we hope that the safety or the backside backer becomes our tackler on the tunnel screen.
Okay, great. Thanks, Coach. We've got time for one more question here. Coach, tell me what types of offenses that you encounter most out of this system, and what offense would give you the greatest difficulty?
Well, the types of offenses that are starting to give us problems is offenses that are utilizing multiple tight ends. The worst thing for an odd front defense is to get 2 tight end formations. So what teams are doing now is they're giving us multiple tight ends, giving us what we call tray formations, the tight end trips, then a tray wing where we're getting a tray formation with the number 2 receiver being a tight end. That creates leverage issues. Also utilizing multiple tight ends in the run game and not pulling guards to run the power play, utilizing H-back type of guys. So any type of H-back 11 personnel offenses that is going to move the H-back around gives us problems because it creates moving parts that we've got secondary or third-level players reading the H-back that we cannot always get those guys involved in fitting the run game because our inside linebackers are reading the guards to the near backs, and a lot of times the vision point on the H-back is not in the guard or in that tackle box as in the eye with the normal 21 personnel with the lead fullback running power and things of that nature. That H-back guy is always hanging. If I'm looking at this picture, he'll hang out in here, and this inside backer doesn't see him if he comes across to pull or kick or load on the option plays. So any type of team that's going to utilize an H-back and run some zone option type of stuff and two tight end formations gives us some problems.
Great. We've actually got a couple other questions come in, Coach, so I'll go ahead and address those. Do you run your strong safety down with quarterback cadences in cover 3 or have them start in their proper alignment?
They're going to move down off the quarterback. What we try to do each week is we try to find a cue off of the quarterback. The cue meaning what gets the play started for them. A lot of coaches teach their quarterbacks to scan left, back right, and then we tell our kids once the quarterback's head goes forward, the ball's going to come within a second. So what we want to do is when the quarterback starts to look left, look right, we want to start our stem. We want to start to what we call unwrap the coverage. We want to always show cover 6, but every week every quarterback's different. A lot of quarterbacks now are going silent count. The center's doing the snap count, so the quarterback will raise his foot or drop his hand. When we see the hand drop, that's when we'll start to unwrap the coverage and show it.
Coach, is your flat SCF player always running with wheel by number 2?
Our flat player?
Yes.
Corner or safety?
Corner.
The boundary corner who's a funnel technique, yes, any number 2. So what I tell that corner is if number 2 is 4 yards, you're looking at my screen, 4 yards or less from number 1, do not funnel. Be ready for one of them out and one of them in type of concept. And he will always run with 2 out. Always will run with 2 out. Now, anytime you get number 2 that's a normal split, you know you're probably not going to get a post wheel type of concept. So we'll go ahead and funnel with our eyes on our head placement on the backside pad with vision point on 2.
In cover 3.
In cover 3, our flat player, our 9 technique, will not run with the wheel route. If up top is our reduction side, so if you're looking at this picture, and there's a number 2 down here, and this is our Okie side, our drop linebacker. What we say is if it's post wheel down here to the boundary, our 9 technique will play cut, and as he gets 2 on a wheel, he will settle underneath it, but he won't run with it. He'll trail it. The corner will deliver the post to our post player in cover 3, and then he will come off on the wheel. So we don't need the 9 there to run with the wheel. So we're going to deliver that post, and what we call is as soon as the free safety feels that he has control of a post route, he will make a post call. He'll just say post, 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 and when he says post, that corner uses what I call a slough. He'll just slough off, and he'll come off and be ready to play the wheel. And the 9 technique will trail it so that you can't drop the ball in the hole at about 12 to 15 yards there. Hopefully that answers his question.
Yep, that's great. Thanks, Coach. Well, that brings us to the end of the question and answer period here. Coach Brown, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge with us tonight. Thanks again to all the coaches who attended the webinar. We hope to see everyone attend our next webinar, which is Tuesday, April 2nd, where we will have Coach Cecil Phillips, the head coach at Amherst County High School in Virginia, with us to speak on jet sweep and complementary playoffs jet sweep, including inside attack, misdirection package, and play action passing game. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great night.